On May 13th, 2025, a woman most Canadians have never heard of walked into one of the most complicated jobs in the federal government. Her name is Lena Metlege Diab. She was handed the keys to Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, an agency so overwhelmed that in the 2 years before she arrived, over 153,000 study permits had been flagged for potential fraud. And under the rules that existed at the time, officers only had the resources to investigate around 4,000 of them. 153,000 flagged, 4,000 investigated. That's the system she inherited. 12 months later, Canada's immigration system looks meaningfully different. The philosophy has shifted. The targets have also shifted. The laws have changed, and millions of people, immigrants, students, temporary workers, asylum seekers, even permanent residents, are going to feel it, whether they know who Lena Diab is or not. Today we're talking about what she has done and why it matters. But to understand what Lena Diab has changed, you need to understand what she walked into. As under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Canada's immigration posture was essentially more. More people, more pathways, higher targets, bigger numbers. It was politically popular. It helped address labor shortages, and for a while, it worked. And then it stopped working. Housing costs exploded. The temporary resident population ballooned. The fraud problem in the international student system became impossible to ignore. And by 2025, there was real political pressure from both the public and within the Liberal Party itself to pull back and get control of the immigration system. So many things happened in between, especially with the change in immigration ministers. But that's not the focus of today's video. Now, enter Lena Diab with a mandate to make changes. And what makes her approach interesting is that she hasn't done it by simply shutting things down. She's done it by getting more precise, more deliberate about who Canada selects, how these people get in, and what happens when the rules are not followed. Interestingly, 3 clear trends have defined her first year. Let's go through each one. The first thing that Lena Diab did, and this one flew under the radar, was that she handed significant power over permanent resident selection to the provinces. Every year, Canada's immigration minister publishes something called the Immigration Levels Plan. It sets the annual targets, how many permanent residents Canada will admit, and through which programs. Lena's first levels plan dropped the federal government's own target for the first time in years from 124,680 in 2025 down to 109,000 in 2026. But at the same time, she boosted the provincial allocation by 66%. Provincial nominations for permanent residents jumped from 55,000 to 91,500 annual admissions, the largest single-year increase in the program's history. In practice, this means that British Columbia, Manitoba, Nova Scotia, and the other provinces now have significantly more say over who gets to become a permanent resident of Canada. Through the provincial nominee program, each province can define the exact occupations and profiles they are looking for and fill their quota accordingly. BC, for example, has directed nearly all of its entire 2026 allocation towards healthcare workers, tradespeople, entrepreneurs, and high-impact economic candidates. They are asking for exactly the workers their economy needs right now. This is a fundamental departure from the centralized Ottawa knows best model that dominated under the previous government. Lena is essentially saying the provinces understand their labor markets better than we do. Let them pick. Well done, Lena. On the federal side, she also did some things in the express entry. But before we dive into that, for everyone watching this who is either moving to Canada or traveling internationally, you need to pay attention to this. Let's talk about your data needs when you travel. Holafly offers eSIMs in 200 plus destinations worldwide, and you can buy just the days you need depending on your trip. But if you're always on the move or you're relocating abroad, then check out Holafly Plans. It is their monthly eSIM subscription, and with just one eSIM, you are connected in 160 plus destinations. You can choose between either the unlimited plan or the light plan at 25 gig a month. Both plans include hotspot, so you can easily connect your other devices while traveling. And it's a simple setup. One eSIM, one flat monthly fee, and coverage in 160 plus destinations. The payment structure is very friendly. Pay monthly or save with an annual plan. One thing that sets Holafly apart is their always-on benefits. Even if your eSIM expires or you cancel your monthly plan, you still get 1 gig a month in 70 plus destinations as long as the eSIM stays on your phone. So if your travel plans change unexpectedly and you land somewhere without service, you need directions, or you need to navigate your new country, you are covered. You're never fully disconnected, no matter what. Use my code SHEYOBASI at checkout. You get 10% off Holafly plans for your first 12 months and 5% off any eSIM. The link is in the description and the pinned comments. Go check it out. All right, back to what Lena has done in the Express Entry. Express Entry is Canada's flagship federal system for selecting permanent residents. It runs on a points-based ranking system, and the government holds periodic draws inviting the top-ranked candidates to apply. Since Lena took office, 5 new selection categories have been added, and they are remarkably specific. Physicians with Canadian work experience, senior managers, researchers, transport workers, skilled military recruits, and each category covers 4 occupations or fewer, which is manageable. Compare that to the existing healthcare category, which covers 37 occupations, or trades, which covers 25. Lena's new categories are not trying to cast a wide net. They are identifying precise gaps in the labor market and filling them with targeted draws. And the numbers reflect that. A standard Canadian experience class draw might invite 2,000 to 8,000 candidates at once. The first draw under the new physician category invited 391 invitations. Senior managers invited 250. She also raised the bar for getting into those categories in the first place. To qualify for category-based selection in the Express Entry, candidates now need 1 full year of work experience in an eligible occupation, up from the previous 6 months. And while the previous requirement was for that experience to be continuous, the new rule is cumulative. It's slightly more flexible in form, but significantly higher in substance. And there's more coming. Lena's department has published plans to overhaul the entire Express Entry system, replacing the current 3 separate programs with a single unified program. The new baseline would require a high school diploma, Canadian Language Benchmark 6 across all 4 language abilities, and 1 year of cumulative work experience in the past 3 years. The scoring system would also be restructured. High-wage workers would get extra points, job offer points will return but only for high-wage positions, and tradespeople will get better recognition of their qualifications. Consultations are underway as we speak. Now, if there's one theme that runs through almost everything Lena has done, it's rural Canada. Canada's smaller communities have a labor shortage problem that's been building for decades. Young people leave for cities. Industries that depend on physical labor like agriculture, healthcare, trades, hospitality can't find workers. And immigration has increasingly become the policy answer to that problem. Lena's signature initiative on this front is called the In Canada Workers Initiative, what we were calling the TR to PR pathway, to transition 33,000 temporary workers who are already living in rural Canada to permanent residents by the end of 2027. 3,000 of those transitions are targeted for 2026 alone, and RCC has already processed 3,600 in January and February. The first concrete information didn't land until May 4th, 2026, and it includes that you need at least 2 years living in a smaller community to qualify. Workers in urban areas are excluded, and the initiative partly works by accelerating existing permanent residence applications from people already in the pipeline through programs like the PNP and the Atlantic Immigration Program. For temporary foreign workers in rural areas, Lena has also expanded the number of low-wage workers an employer can hire. The normal cap is 10% of your workforce. For eligible rural employers in British Columbia, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Quebec, that limit is now 15%, and employers above the cap can keep their existing workers above it too. This runs until March 2027. She has been systematically removing friction from the temporary residence system. In January 2026, master's and doctoral students no longer need a provincial attestation letter to get a study permit. These letters were introduced to slow the flood of international students that had overwhelmed Canada's colleges and universities. But graduate students are a completely different population. They are small cohorts with highly regulated admissions, and in most cases, acceptance is tied to a professor availability and research funding. They don't need the same level of gatekeeping as other levels of students. So Lena caught it. She also introduced expedited permit processing for PhD students as fast as 2 weeks, though in practice, it probably doesn't work that well. In April 2026, international students in co-op, internship, and practicum programs no longer need a separate co-op work permit. Your study permit covers it. So that's one less document and one less application. Also in April, work permit extension letters, the document you can carry when your old permit has expired but your renewal is still being processed, just had their validity doubled from 180 days to 365 days. In Canada, work permit processing now takes over 200 days on average. Honestly, why does it take that long? Workers were going through their 180 days letters and needing a second one just to stay legal while they still waited for a decision. Extending to 1 year fixes that problem for almost everyone. Iranian nationals in Canada as temporary residents and Ukrainians who arrived under emergency policies during the war with Russia also had their work permits extended under her regime. Both groups are now protected until March 2027. Now, let's skip to the part that has generated the most controversy. During her tenure, Parliament passed Bill C-12, the legislation that made sweeping changes to both the immigration system and the asylum system. And some of those changes are significant enough that immigration lawyers are still working through the implications. Regarding asylum, there's now a 1-year deadline to file a claim after entering Canada. If you've been in Canada for more than a year without claiming, I'm sorry, your window is closed. And if you filed a refugee claim, then voluntarily returned to the country you claimed asylum from, the Immigration and Refugee Board is now required to stop processing your case. The logic is that if you went back voluntarily, you've signaled that the country is actually safe for you. On fraud, you remember those 153,000 flagged study permits with only 4,000 investigations? Well, Bill C-12 gave the government tools to address that at scale. Officers can now act on a far larger share of flagged cases. But the change that raised the most eyebrows is this, that Bill C-12 granted the federal cabinet sweeping new executive powers over the entire immigration system. The governor in council, that's cabinet, can now order a stop on accepting new applications, pause or cancel the processing of applications already submitted, change the conditions on existing work permits, study permits, and permanent resident visas, and impose new conditions on temporary residents. These powers are broad. Critics have pointed out that they could be used in ways that go far beyond what any minister is currently announcing. But supporters say that they are necessary tools for managing a system that was dangerously out of control. Either way, they exist now, and Lena's government asked for them. So what do you make of Lena Diab's first year as Canada's immigration minister? She walked into a department that was drowning in applications, flagged permits, and political pressure from every direction. And rather than just dialing numbers up or down, which is what most immigration ministers do, she's been restructuring the logic of the system itself. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. Whether you think this is Canada getting smarter about immigration or Canada getting colder about it, it probably depends on where you sit. But what's not up for debate is that she has moved fast and the changes she has made are real. And she's not done. The express entry overhaul, the international student rule changes, the restructured scoring system, those are all still in consultation, which means that the next 12 months could be just as consequential as the first 12. If you are affected by any of this, or you just want to understand the system before the next round of changes land, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We track this stuff as it happens and we keep you up to date. Don't run away and don't be a stranger, okay? Also, like the video and check out this very captivating video right here. Drop your comments below and I'll respond, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.